Hi, my name is Noel, and I teach meditation as a universal practice. We've been exploring what the wisdom and religious traditions of the world say about meditation. And in this video, we look at some more of their writings and scriptures. So, here goes. In the last video, we looked at an excerpt from the Katha Upanishad, an Indian Hindu text. In this video, we will look at one or two other traditions. We begin with Buddhism. The third noble truth of Buddhism advises this: when the fires of selfishness have been extinguished, when the mind is free of selfish desire, what remains is the state of wakefulness, of peace, of joy, of perfect health, called nirvana. Now, this verse describes meditation as a state of wakefulness that arises when the fires of selfishness have been extinguished. So meditation is about letting go of our attachments, our preoccupations, most of which relate to our desire for the 3 Ps: power, prestige, or possessions. The next excerpt is from chapter 16 of the Tao Te Ching, a Chinese Taoist text, which reads as follows: empty yourself of everything. Let the mind rest at peace. The 10,000 things rise and fall while the self watches their return. This short excerpt describes the torrent of thoughts that invade the silent mind as 10,000 things, but also refers to the self that watches their return. This is the witnessing self that we spoke about in earlier videos. How the mind can be aware of what is happening in the mind. The verse goes on to describe what happens as we acknowledge and then let go of our thoughts. They grow and flourish and then return to the source. Returning to the source is stillness, which is the way of nature. The way of nature is unchanging. Knowing constancy is insight. Not knowing constancy leads to disaster. So this verse encourages us to maintain the stillness and silence. It says doing so consistently leads to insight. Let me quote from it again. Knowing constancy, the mind is open. With an open mind, you will be open-hearted. Being open-hearted, you will act royally. Being royal, you will attain the divine. Being divine, you will be at one with the Tao. Being at one with the Tao is eternal. And though the body dies, the Tao will never pass away. Ultimately, this verse points towards a state of unitive consciousness, toward the true self, which is our true essence and which never passes away. Let's take another excerpt, this time from the Sufi Islamic poet Hafiz. And this piece is called The Seed Cracked Open. It used to be that when I would wake in the morning, I could with confidence say, what am I going to do? But that was before the seed cracked open. Now Hafiz is certain there are 2 of us housed in this body, doing the shopping together in the market and tickling each other while fixing the evening's food. Now when I awake, all the internal instruments play the same music, asking, God, what love mischief can we do for the world today? This lovely little poem also speaks to the true self. The opening lines point to our sense of separateness, to that sense of an egoic state where the world is seen in terms of I and me and mine. But that, as the poet says, was before the seed cracked open. The seed cracks open when the conditions are right. And then we discover, when we meditate, that stillness and silence are the conditions required for our inner flourishing at the deepest level of our being. It is in this stillness and silence of meditation that the seed of our spirituality cracks open and blossoms, or at least meditation is one of the means of doing so. It is then that we discover the true self, which is who we truly are. So now, as the poet says, we realize there are two of us housed in this one body, the embodied self and the true self. Let's take one final excerpt from Scripture, from the New Testament of the Christian Scriptures, from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians. Chapter 3, verses 14 to 21. This is what I pray, kneeling before the Father, from whom every family, whether spiritual or natural, takes its name. Out of his infinite glory, may he give you the power through his Spirit for your hidden self to grow strong, so that Christ may live in your hearts through faith, and then, planted in love and built on love, you will have with all the saints, you will have the strength to grasp the breadth and the length, the height and the depth, until, knowing the love of Christ, which is beyond all knowledge, you are filled with the utter fullness of God. So that excerpt also points to the true self at the center of our being, what St. Paul here calls the hidden self. Christians believe that Christ dwells in every human heart, and the Christian mystical tradition says so too. When we are truly present to ourselves, to our own spirit, we are simultaneously present to God. And of course, in his teachings, Jesus promoted the practice of taking time out for silent interior prayer. For example, in Matthew's Gospel, he encourages his disciples, saying, "When you pray, go into your private room, shut yourself in, and so pray to your Father who is in that secret place." And a little further on, he adds, "In your prayers, do not babble like the Gentiles do, for they think that by using many words, they will make themselves heard." This teaching on meditation as prayer highlights a distinction between different traditions of meditation. Both the Christian and Hindu traditions see meditation as a form of deep prayer, a silent, imageless, wordless form of prayer. While all traditions see meditation as simply being, as against doing, the Christian and Hindu traditions see meditation as simply being in God's presence. Not talking to God or thinking about God, simply being in God's presence. We will return to this theme in a future video, where we will tease out this distinction further. All of these religious traditions, even those like Buddhism that do not believe in a God, they all assert that meditation changes our understanding of who we are at the depths of our being. While Hinduism and the Abrahamic traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam Believe that the Spirit of God dwells mysteriously within us and is loving to all. Buddhism teaches that we all share in Buddha nature, that the Buddha is within every person, because the substance that comprises the Buddha is the energy of mindfulness, of understanding, and compassion. In a nutshell, they all say that each of us has the capacity to wake up to our essential nature, to develop understanding, and to live life with compassion. And that sitting in the stillness of meditation is the pathway to living a more fruitful life. But now, to experience these truths for yourself, I invite you to sit in the stillness and silence of meditation for the next 15 minutes. And please do try to set aside that time each day for meditation.